It's 10 a.m. here in Lagos. Good morning and welcome to Business Morning. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago.
And I'm Ladi Williams. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at what's in the news. Nigeria's Purchasing Manager Index rose to 55.4 points in July from 53.6 points in June. And this is according to Stanbic IBTC Bank's reports. This signals a marked improvement in business conditions and can be described as one of the strongest PMI since January 2020. According to the report, Nigeria's private sector began the second half of the year on a positive footing as it continued the run of expansion that began in July 2020.
It said quicker uptakes in output, new orders, purchases, and employment supported growth.
And the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is set to release its 2020 financial statement in the third quarter of this year. Its Group Managing Director, Mele Kyari, made this known at an event organized by the Society of Petroleum Engineers in Lagos.
And he says the NNPC statement of account for last year will be made public within the next 2 months, and this will be the first time in the country's history that a national oil company will declare a dividend to Nigerians.
And the central bank has assured members of the banking public that it will monitor the commercial banks to ensure they meet the legitimate FX demands of customers. This follows the commencement of the regulator's directive to deposit money banks to sell foreign exchange to customers for invisibles such as basic travel allowance, PTA, medical and tuition bills. The CBN also dismissed speculations that it planned to convert the foreign exchange in DOM accounts of customers into Naira.
In a statement released by the Apex Bank, the acting director in charge of corporate communications, Osita Wanisobi, says the CBN had put in place monitoring mechanism to guarantee the seamless sale of foreign exchange to customers who supported their requests with relevant documentation. He also urged operators of domiciliary accounts and other members of the banking public to go about their legitimate foreign exchange transactions and disregard fictitious stories aimed at pitching them against the banks and triggering chaos in the system.
And globally, the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises account for 90% of businesses, 60 to 70% of employment, and 50% of the gross domestic product. There's no doubt MSMEs play a critical role as a heartbeat of Nigeria's domestic employment and growth.
However, despite MSMEs' widely acknowledged capacity to contribute to growth and development, job creation, and export, among others, the sector, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, MSMEs survey continues to be weighed down with challenges which ultimately impact growth. And one of such challenges is the exchange rate. And to give us his perspective on the recent development in the FX market and what that would mean for SMEs is the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, Eke Ubiji. He joins us next. All right, we're being joined by Eke Ubiji now, the Executive Secretary of Small and Medium Enterprises Association. Thank you very much, Mr. Ubiji, for joining us on the program.
Good to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chime and Mr. Larry Williams.
Thank you so much.
Well, last week, of course, we heard what the central bank did with the foreign exchange market by discontinuing allocation of forex to the BDCs. And of course, you cannot talk about forex without mentioning the MSMEs because it sure has an implications for them. Now, for you, what came to your mind when that announcement was made? Were you excited? Were you disappointed?
Thank you very much for that observation. Firstly, the change was so swift because the CBN forgot to put into consideration that the BDCs are also SMEs. They are also SMEs in the financial services sector. They have employees that work for them, isn't it? So if you make such discontinuation, what is going to be the backlash? What is going to be the effect?
But that doesn't stop them from operating now. What the central bank is saying is that they should go and source their forex elsewhere. Perhaps.
But, you know, it goes with some level of challenges also. You understand? But now, look at what they've done. They channeled, they said, okay, commercial banks will handle the rest. You ask, before, when BDCs were doing it, it's very easy for an SME to walk into a BDC, procure the forex the person wants, and walk away. But if you go through the banks, commercial banks, the protocols you follow, official protocols, fill this and that. Do SMEs have that time? Do they have such luxury of time?
Well, the central bank have alleged some kind of abuses in you know, within the BDC
the BDCs, yes.
Operation.
Okay, I'm not closing my eyes to that, but the CBN is a regulator. It should have thought of coming up with some systems and procedures that would have helped to monitor and provide solutions that will address those concerns they noticed, instead of
throwing the baby with the
exactly, because I'm telling you, SMEs are not like the Guinnesses, the Cadburys of the world. A lot of them are struggling. Now,
so what has been the experience of your members walking into a bank to access a foreign exchange?
The experience have not been so smooth. What do I mean by that? It takes time. The protocols you follow, fill this, fill that, and all whatnot. Sometimes asking for, pardon me, asking for mosquito kidney. You understand? So to an average SME that is time conscious of what he or she is doing, it's time wasting. Look, let me give you a typical example. Go and check your records. In most countries of the world, BDCs play this role. When I went to China some years ago, it was in the market. A market, very big market like the Tejo market. You have BDCs there. I didn't go to a bank. And what they use is more or less kiosk, not formal office in the true sense of the word. I mean, China. I had some dollars. I need to procure their currency.
Of course, that's the essence of having the BDCs.
Absolutely.
They're supposed to, you know,
but
service.
When abuse, when
yes.
they're not following the, you know,
the rules, they're supposed to service those who would need a foreign exchange
and
below 5,000.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have them dealing with foreign exchange
5,000.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We are not in support of BDCs venturing into all those abuses. It's not good, because this country is our own. We have to do everything to ensure that things are done properly. But what I said, I've said it earlier, I said, it's the duty of the CBN. After all, is it not the CBN that regulates the BDCs? Is it not the CBN that registered them? There must be a way by which you can, especially if you identify those areas where there are flaws, you come up with appropriate policies to address them. That's what I'm saying. Now, let me give you an example. I told you when I started, I said the BDCs are also SMEs. When we are reading your news, we are talking about unemployment, employment, and all whatnot. Those people that work within the BDCs, you came with this bank. Some of them will be thrown out of job. Do you know the implication? If there's nothing they can do again, we are talking of banditry, kidnapping, and all whatnot. It's going to increase. It's going to increase. So you look down and see the effect. I'm not saying the CBN should not do their work, please. Let them do their work, but let them be sensitive.
But the CBN has, you know, said that banks will you'll be able to get foreign exchange from the commercial banks, you know, going forward. But how do you...
And the banks are also assuring the banking public that when you come, you're going to... There will be supply. Yeah, and they've created a desk for foreign exchange desk.
Each of the banks, yes.
Yeah.
If you read the news, or I mean, if you read papers and watch the news, you see that. But this is not the first time. Go down the memory lane. I hope the abuses that happened the first time, earlier when it was done, will not repeat itself. Because you say, go to banks, you go there, banks say they don't have the forex. Then I'm not talking
That
of
was
now.
then, yeah,
Even
but
now, one of the pluses you can give to what the CBN have done is that look at the exchange rate now. As of this morning, when I watched TV before I left the house, 412 naira to a dollar. While before, when BDC was, it's 500 and something. Isn't it? That's it. But let's be cautious about this. Let's be sensitive. How are we going to continue with this undisturbed, undistorted? We have to put that into consideration.
Do you think that this is not sustainable?
That's the point I'm giving. That's the point I'm making.
Now,
How sustainable is it going to be?
to what extent are your members dependent on the parallel market and the BDCs for their forex? To what extent?
A lot of them, I don't want to mention names. Do you know, not up to a month now, a notable person in my organization wanted to travel. You understand? Before even this policy announcement, he advised the person that was to go and say, please just go to the airport and get, he doesn't want anything that will delay him.
So it's all about delay.
I'm just giving you that instance. So not to talk of somebody who wants to go and procure raw materials and so on, machineries and all whatnot. And these things are time-bound. That's the fear we have. And the SMEs are not, like I mentioned, the Guinnesses of this world, the Cadburys of this world. You know how the operations are. Any little distortion can mess up what they are doing.
But for you now, what would you say is the solution at this point?
You see, the solution to this is, instead of throwing off the BDCs with a policy bank, the CBN should do effective and close monitoring of the operations so that they keep to lay down policies so that will not be open to abuses. I know CBN said BDCs were abusing it. If they were abusing this process, what makes it difficult for you to assess it and come up with policy options that you can use to address those abuses?
Well, that might take the CBN's attention from the important
one way to tackle this problem of dependence on forex is perhaps to look inwards, to promote import substitution. So, to what extent have your members been able to look inwards to source their raw materials? Because if you look inwards, then perhaps you wouldn't have to have so much demand for forex.
Foreign exchange. True.
Thank you very much for that question. It's not just our members alone. The government should also try to pay attention to this, because immediately we can generate our raw materials from within the country. It makes it easier for everybody. We have look at, for example, the federal government have an agency called RMRDC, Raw Materials Research and Development Council. This agency has been doing a lot of research on options, alternatives to some of the raw materials that are brought in from outside. You understand? If more funding could be given to that organization so that they will have a way of advertising, talking to the public, especially the relevant sectors. Look, we have this in place. If you've been to their office, you see samples of raw materials they've researched and produced, waiting for use. But how many people know? I know about them because I go to their office, we relate to each other. It's an institutional member of our organization.
Right.
You understand? So that's why we're able to know that. And in many programs we do, they are involved. But how many people, I may know in my capacity, but how many people, those concerned who need those things, how many of them know?
What would you say are the constraints? Actually sourcing raw materials locally?
One, it depends on the type of raw materials you need. For example, there are agricultural products that are raw materials. How do you use them? Do you use them straight from the farm, or do they need to be processed before you can use them in your productive activities that will end up in manufactured goods or products? These are the things. You don't just fetch. Look at in the agricultural sector. Okay, you use mango fruit to produce mango juice, isn't it? Okay, that mango you get, does it become mango juice overnight? It undergoes certain processes. You process, store.
That value chain should actually...
Value addition. There are so many value additions. Even the machineries you need to do that, you have to have them in place. Then the canning and so on and so forth. So these are the things before you now come out with mango juice products.
Now let me ask you, a weak currency offers, advantage for exporters. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now, have the SMEs been taking advantage of this weak currency for their exports?
Well, come again.
There's a weak currency.
A weak currency which offers advantage for exporters. How often, does SMEs take advantage of this weak naira for their exports?
SMEs would like to take a lot of advantages in that regard. But it's not just weak naira. Before you can export a product from here to outside the country, there are a lot of processes you have to undergo. If you don't comply with that, look at the issue of standards and quality and standards. You need to. Then you have to process your papers. But one of the things that have been done recently, which Nigeria is part of, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is, I must commend the African Union and the AfCFTA. We've been working assiduously hard on that so that by the time it takes effective, it starts effectively, our SMEs will partake in that process. Because some of the things, say duty this, duty that, all those things are more or less reduced so that an SME will not be scratching his or her head, even though there are still some constraints. Infrastructure. Like if you go to Europe or America or what, name them. You can move even with train. SMEs can even carry their products by train instead of flying them or what, or using trucks. You understand? If you've been abroad, from Amsterdam, you can travel by train and enter into Germany.
All right.
So these are some of the challenges. It's not so easy. But if you want to do them by air, you have to find a way to cover the cost.
All right, Mr. Obuji. I guess we'll have to leave it there now. Thank you so much for your time on the program. Mr. Eke Obuji is the Executive Secretary, Nigeria Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. Thank you so much for coming on Business Morning.
Thank you very much, please.
All right, we'll take a moment now. Our commodities market update is next after the break. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. And now for commodities update. All prices reverse course after an early bounce this morning as concerns over coronavirus curbs combined with slowing factory activity in key markets weighed on sentiment. Brent crude oil futures shed 5 cents to $72.84 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures was down 8 cents at $71.18 a barrel. Both markets dropped more than 3% on Monday. Analysts in the note highlighted a resurgent economic risk to major oil consumer China from coronavirus pandemic. They also flagged slowing manufacturing activity as a key concern to both China and the United States. Elsewhere, U.S. crude and product inventories likely declined last week, with both distillates and gasoline stockpiles predicted to have fallen for a third straight week. Now to take us through the developments in the commodities market space is Juliet Adengwa, head of Treasury at Financial Derivatives Company. Great to have you on the program. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us, Juliet.
Good
morning. Good to see you.
Have you.
All right, so oil prices dropped on worries over China's economy after a survey showed factory activity growing at its slowest pace in 17 months in the world's second largest consumer of oil. And China has been leading economic recovery in Asia. And if the pullback deepens, what would this mean for the oil market and the global outlook?
Okay. We know that China is the second largest consumer of oil globally. So they're a key player in terms of consumption, and they can also determine what happens to the price. So you see this trend in the oil sector now presently in terms of the barrel price of oil. The decline is driven by the new variants of the COVID-19 virus. People are getting infected. In short, countries are beginning to impose lockdown. Some are imposing restrictions. And this has started affecting the demand for oil. And apart from that, one of the chief consumers, or the country that consumes most, is also experiencing a decline in demand. If this continues, of course, they can affect the global price of oil. And oil takers, price takers and oil-dependent economies, it's going to have a global ripple effect on revenue of government, and it's going to affect so many other aspects. So we have to, see what is happening with this new variant of the Delta, of the virus, as a very serious issue to be tackled. We've gone through the first wave, we survived it, the second wave, this one, if we are not careful, we are still reeling from the after effects of the first two waves, but this particular variant is like as if it's coming to do more harm. So it's not something to be taken lightly, and we should watch it. If not, it's going to take us back, or even worse than where we are globally.
So
now we've seen oil price is still within the $70 a barrel. So how low do you see this, going?
Maybe $50?
$50? It depends on what plays out.
Right.
We have to watch to see. Countries are becoming our way. They are vaccinating. They are vaccinating. People are, governments or decision makers are trying to ensure this doesn't spread. It doesn't get as bad as when there was total lockdown. Because what happened then, no nation, no economy had recovered yet. We're still struggling to come up. So how low it can get depends on how the demand, how it depreciates and declines, because it is demand that drives the price of oil. So if it becomes so bad that there is lockdown, there's no need for gas, and people get back to that, it can get as low as whatever is prevailing then. So it depends on what plays out as nations and economies try to fight this new variant and try to curb it and ensure it doesn't really penetrate and take over like the initial,
And
time.
this obviously is not good news for Nigeria, particularly. We're talking about foreign exchange. Yeah. Now we saw what the central bank did. We're trying to see how we can ramp up, foreign exchange supply in the market. I mean, that's your department. When we're seeing oil price now go down, and then we now have to have the external reserve,
but
declining.
The drop is not yet much. We're on 72 now. Even though we can't go to rest, we are still, on a good place. You are in a good place, I mean. Now, you know that our quota was increased to 1.83. We are still producing 1.44 million, this barrels per day. So we can still even accommodate this if this shortage in price, we can, accommodate it by increasing our production, because we still have allowance for about 0.43 million. So it can still happen, but for that, mind you, our benchmark was $40. That was what we worked with in our appropriation bill. So I think Nigeria, based on where we were expecting we would be and where we are now, I think Nigeria is still in a good place, although we don't need to go to sleep. We still have to be careful to ensure it doesn't get worse than what we see.
How will this affect the price of PMS?
Price of PMS? We know what the PMS in Nigeria, if you talk of in Nigeria, the PMS issue in Nigeria, there's still subsidization. As long as it's still 165, it's not reflecting the market, the reality. Because we know what had happened in terms of the oil price, it's gone up, exchange rate, but still, we are still on 165. I don't know, let me bust your bubble a bit. Do you know that Nigeria is the lowest in terms of unit price of liter of fuel? We are on 32 cents, on $0.32. Neighboring Cameroon, $1.15. Ghana, $1.05. Even Togo is on 92 cents. Benin Republic is on 98 cents. And that's why we really have the issue with small glass. It's very attractive. They can come, buy at 32 and sell out. So for Nigeria, till we stop massaging the challenge we have with subsidy and allow what is reality to come to play, the sooner we accept it and begin to let the market forces determine in the long run, it will benefit all of us than what we are, trying to. As long as it's still 165, we're still subsidizing. So it depends on whether the government decides to, remove their hands. We'll begin to see the reality in terms of what the pump price of fuel should be in Nigeria.
Okay. And we're seeing petrol consumption in Nigeria increasing, up 24.11%. And the question that will come to mind is, are we importing more cars? What's driving this?
Consuming
that was in March. Doesn't mean that we imported more cars.
That was in March. But do you know that as at May, June, it went as much as 100.2 million. And just like you said, that we're importing cars, effective demand is about between 40 and 50. You know what happens? Smugglers are working. They are they're cashing out. And that's why the subsidy is a pain to the government. I'm subsidizing 102 point something million as demand of fuel a day in Nigeria leaders, whereas up to close to 50 million goes out, goes smuggling out or gets smuggled out, and the government is paying for that. So in reality, it's not as if anything happened that we are maybe importing more cars. It's that we need to come to the point of discouraging smugglers.
So it's still the
Let the reality come to play. They'll be discouraged. They won't want to operate in this market, in the Nigerian market anymore, just like other, neighboring and African economies.
But how do you reconcile this with the fact that NNPC remittances to FARC has declined because of the subsidy?
Okay, if I want to look at that other aspect of NNPC, the issue is that in recent times, they have been deducting from the remittances they're supposed to make to FARC and using it to pay for subsidy. So the benefits that should go to the three tiers of government had experienced a kind of decline over the months. In February, it was up to 25 billion that was taken away from what NNPC should have, remitted to this FARC. By March, it went up a little bit again to 60. By April, it was 62 billion. In May, they didn't remit anything because of subsidy. And June, now it had gone to 126, and now we are on 170. So you notice that it's a big issue.
So subsidy removal is just inevitable.
It's something we have to understand as a nation, that it will be for our good in the long run, and we should stop kicking against it. It's harming us. You know that when the NNPC is hindered, or they are stopped from remitting to FARC, we are making a serious exchange or maybe trade-off that is very bad. Because this FARC is supposed to go down to the roots. It gets to the local government. It should affect the real sector. It should do something to cover up the infrastructure deficit, cause employment, cause growth. Real growth in the economy. And then we're using subsidy, to take care of. We are using it to pay subsidy instead of pumping it in and ensuring that the three tiers of government that they appropriate the funds well to cause the economy to grow. So we should understand the fact that this subsidy thing, it has to be made away with so that we can get better as a nation.
Yeah, but so many things against this subsidy. We're talking about, when they remove this subsidy, of course, most Nigerians will say, oh, we're going to pay more for food.
Yes.
Now we have inflation. And then we have the issue of the Forex. And
disposable income.
All of how do we reconcile all of this?
I usually think that if we allow subsidy, it will make the market even attractive for investors to come in. If you remember in 2001 when the privatization of the telecoms, I remember I bought a line with a Sergeant SIM for about 35,000 naira then. It was very expensive. But it was attractive then, and it opened the door for investors to come in. And in the end, there were times we were begged to take SIMs for free. That's the issue, that we will need to be patient and allow the invisible hand will pay us in the end, even in this case. Because if it is attractive, it's because it's not attractive. 32 cents. Who will want to invest in that? It's not attractive. If it's attractive, it will bring foreign investors, and by the time competition comes to play, it will end up affecting us positively. We that are the consumers.
Okay.
All right, let's look at agri-commodities. Yeah, we're talking about cocoa price going up. And of course, cocoa being Nigeria's major commodity export. So with the price rising now, are we expecting to see, you know, that impact on our reserves, perhaps?
On the reserves, that depends on the percentage of cocoa too.
That we are exporting.
What we are experiencing is good because of the rainfall. Actually, the rainfall is good for the bean. It gives us a good quality and allows the farmers to be able to trade at higher prices. That's why you're noticing the increase. It's just about a 2.8% increase in the cocoa prices around the states that that major in the production. So it's going to have its own positive impact at the ratio of what it does to the GDP. So it's actually a good one for the country too, for the cocoa.
Okay.
Soybeans price is down. What does that mean for Nigeria?
It's not permanent. What is driving it is the catching out of investors. We know the commodity price rallying with stock, but now that investors are cashed out, that's what is driving it. It's not as if it's going to remain permanently like that.
Yeah, talking about this Delta variant and this COVID thing. Of course, was it day before yesterday? Also, Nigeria received some vaccines, Moderna, from the US. Yeah. So, what are the likely impacts that we're going to see, perhaps on the commodities market space with this vaccination drive?
Initially we actually received 4 million earlier. But you need to understand the total population of the vulnerable is about 100 million. Those from 1 to 15 years, they don't need the vaccine. They're out of the picture. And then from 15 and maybe above 15, they need the vaccine. And that's about 100 million. And we're talking about vaccinating just 2 million. That's 1% of the vulnerable population. These 4 million vaccines coming in again, we go in for another 2 million because it's two doses. That's another 2% of the vulnerable population. So we are talking about in all that we've received, even this one we are expecting, hopefully the time lag between coming in and implementing it or maybe applying it on the people will be closed because we are in danger now. Knowing what is happening around, I hope you've heard about Senegal, what is happening, even though they vaccinated 6% of their population, their hospitals are to the full. People are sick. Even in Nigeria, we suspect that we are under-reporting the reality because even in isolation centers, they are having issues with space. So I think that with what is happening now, even after vaccinating with this incoming 4 million, vaccines, we still have touched just 4% of the vulnerable.
But the challenge there is, I mean, with Moderna, some people have already taken AstraZeneca and have not even completed, the dose. I mean, if you have taken AstraZeneca and you still have one more shot to go, would you be taking Moderna? I don't know.
It shouldn't be the same. Moderna is just a dosage.
Absolutely. So yes, I guess we should also be expecting more AstraZeneca.
Vaccines, especially the AstraZeneca
that a lot of people have taken already.
And they need the second dosage. So more of it, that is actually what I wanted to even say. What we should aim at is ensuring we get more vaccines because the number of people already vaccinated, they are just like, it's not even up to a scratch on the surface of those that need the vaccination. It's still too low. And that wouldn't even make any impact. So we need to keep on maintaining all the rules of social distancing, wearing our masks, being careful, and trying not to spread, the virus as people.
All right. It's always great having you.
Always great to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Juliet. All right, we'll take a moment. We'll be back.
All right, trading in the domestic equities market opened this week with bullish performance as investors' interest in bellwether MTN drove a 0.2% gain in the all-share index. Let's hear from Aniete Edet now. Hello, Aniete. What's happening?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for introducing me. Well, actually, it was 0.15% that we gained, but by approximation, you can call it 0.2%. And of course, that gain did not come easy. It was MTN Nigeria, that's telecom giant, that made the market to gain about 30 billion naira on the first trading day of August. And take a look at this is what we have as the all-share index for Monday, 38,000 604.72 points. And then, like I mentioned, it was 30 billion naira that we gained. So we're still within that 20 trillion naira market level. But when you take a look at the sectoral performance, a very dismal performance there. Banking sector was just by a 0.02% increase. That shows you that there was much profit-taking, and that dented the performance. It was also a negative performance across the market for the price performance, because we had just 17 gainers against 26 losers. Also, at the market, we know that the month is just starting, and we're picking up from Friday's close. But last week it was a negative week. But to give us more insight as to how the market is performing in this early part of Tuesday, let's talk to Tajuddin Olayinka, who is a broker at Vermont Securities. Thank you for joining us, Tajuddin.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. Now, the market has started a new month. You can call it a positive market, but for now, but I seem to have my doubts, because MTN Nigeria was the only factor that led for the market to record a gain. So can you tell us what's happening to that stock, as well as other stocks that the investors are putting their eyes on?
Well, telecom company normally, give some ray of hope, especially with the position of that sector in the economy, or even in any economy. So as far as Nigeria is concerned, telecom will still continue to shine, and that's what is happening in MTN. Besides that, market itself as a whole, like I mentioned, the other time, market is still, being driven largely by speculators. So speculators are the ones making markets to operate more on a roller coaster. So what we see is that you see some gains for a few days, or usually for a few days, and then you see some losses also for a few days, because these speculators, as soon as they enter the market, they also want to come out in a very short time. So they are the ones that activities in the market are making the market to actually operate on a roller coaster. And this is happening because anytime you have anytime there is market does not have that right information. So information about the economy, about the market, if they are not right, as to spur further investment by real investors, by long-term investors, you tend to see market behave this way. So basically, what is happening is that even at this moment, MTN is still taking the lead. MTN is pushing market up, already gaining by 1 naira. So that shows that whatever we have, this week or at another week, we will continue to see market behave this way. Market is actually on the roller coaster. It's not something unusual. It's normal with market that is starved of information, especially when there are key economic information. Foreign investors are not here. Most key investors are also not paying the market as they should. So things like this normally affect activities in the market. So that is what is happening as of this moment.
Okay, so let's just say kudos to MTN Nigeria and keep an eye out for the market's close today, at the close of today's trading on the NGX. So that was Tajuddin Olayinka, a broker at Vermont Securities. So now, still at the equities market, it was negative, and then also for the NGX, for the unlisted securities market, was also negative. Ladi, time is never your friend, especially when you're having fun. But I think I'll just take a breather now, allow you to do your thing.
All right, Nathan, thank you so much for that update. I will take another quick break now. When we come back, we do an opening call to London. This is Business Morning. Do stay with us.
All right, let's look at some developments in London where Juliana is. Hello, Juliana. Good morning. Well, IMF has approved the largest resource injection in its history to boost global liquidity and help countries which are struggling as a result of the pandemic. How welcoming is this news for government and investors in London?
Good morning, Chimeze. Well, the expansion of the special drawing rights is mainly targeted at the world's poorest countries. So even though Britain is a member country of the International Monetary Fund, it's not necessarily going to benefit from this. But it's good. This is good, as you said. This is the biggest expansion in its history. It will come into effect on August the 23rd. It's £675 billion. 275 billion will automatically go to the global south, and there is pressure on other member countries to make sure that that money is gone to those countries too. It isn't without controversy. This was a first mould during Trump's administration. Trump pretty openly rejected it, but as soon as the Biden administration was sworn in, the new Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, put her back behind it. And so it has been approved. There are some concerns by Republican congressmen who believe that some of their adversaries, including the likes of Iran, China, and Russia, will be able to use this money to strategically work against them. But, of course, we know that the world's poorest have suffered the most during the pandemic, so it's seen as definitely a good business news story that finally they'll get some much-needed economic injection.
Yeah, and the proposal to create an amber watch list of countries at risk of moving to red in the traffic light system has been dropped. Why?
Well, because of the backlash. It wasn't even, it was still very much speculation. Nobody knew whether or not this was going to come into fruition. But yes, last night we got a dramatic U-turn, another U-turn by the British government. Not only were airline bosses absolutely furious, backbench MPs, including cabinet ministers such as the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps and the Chancellor of the Exchequer Rishi Sunak, were vehemently against this. They wrote to the Prime Minister saying that this would put them way behind their international competitors. So it has been scrapped. And in fact, a letter has just been written to the Prime Minister from about 300 leaders within the tourism sector asking for the amber list and the green list, in fact, the entire traffic light system, to be scrapped in its entirety. What they are suggesting and proposing is that there's only a red list. So travellers know that these are the countries they shouldn't go to or face quarantine, and everyone else should be let open. So we'll just have to wait and see. We are expecting an update on the traffic light system on Thursday, I believe. So hopefully for anybody seeking to get some sun in the last few weeks of the summer, there could be an update that suggests you can travel anywhere. And if you're double vaccinated, you won't have to isolate. That's the mood music in the room in Britain today, Chime.
All right, thanks, Juliana, and we expect more updates from you later in the day. Okay, let's talk crypto with Laddie. Hey, Laddie.
Hey, Chime. The market.
Good to have you back anyway.
Oh, thank you, Chime. Well, the market is having some red moments right now. It's below the 40K. Bitcoin is broken below the 40K range at this point, and a couple of major altcoins also in the red, and we'll have the stable coins in the green. Market cap $1.56 trillion, down about 2.92%. The 24-hour volume is $78 billion traded this morning at 8 a.m. Bitcoin dominance at 46.26%. Price of Bitcoin, $38,362, down about 3.76%, broken below that 40K. Got us had about $41,000. 24-hour volume traded, $26.72 billion in Bitcoin traded this morning. Let's bring in Olumide Adesina now, a financial market analyst. Hello, Olumide.
Good morning.
Good morning, Olumide. So I hear there's the crypto bill in the U.S. Congress right now. Can you tell us about this bill and the possible impact on the crypto market?
Yeah, I think the impact is already weighing on the market. If you look at the fact that Bitcoin in the past few days got to as high as 42,000, but it began to falter on Sunday when it dropped below the 41,000 mark. Don't forget that Bitcoin has had a monthly gain in July about 14%, but still market sentiment became weakened when Bitcoin couldn't break above the $42,000 mark. Now, the crypto bill that was introduced in the U.S. Congress yesterday was shocked a lot of market point because of the timeliness and the fact that the crypto bill was very comprehensive. The crypto bill have not been able to digest the full thing, but what it brings out is that it blocks all loopholes surrounding crypto assets and the fact that creating securitization of these assets. So what market pundits are expecting is that this would somehow weigh in on ICO projects, the way crypto exchanges operate, stable coins regulation, and what have you. But if you look at the positive macro, I think the fact that we see institutional investors and the fact that despite the Chinese clampdown on Bitcoin mining, the hash rate and trading volume has recovered, though we are not seeing the volumes that we saw in Q1 2021 happening, but we've seen an improvement. Then also you look at the real case of Ethereum. Ethereum seems to be decoupling from Bitcoin, and that's because of the growing use of NFTs. If you look at the popular marketplace, for example, OpenSea, their daily trading volume has surpassed their annual volume that they recorded last year. So that tells you the fact that NFTs are gaining volume. And also you look at spot tokens, Man City's almost double in price since about 3 weeks ago. This is giving credence to you that people are also looking at other sectors. So the market right now is on a wait and see scenario.
Wait and see. But the NFTs are still having fun. And where do you see the price of Bitcoin at the end of the week?
I didn't get that.
Where do you see the price of Bitcoin at the end of the week?
Oh, Bitcoin. I think the way it's looking, to be fair to say that Bitcoin might over below 40,000 because the bulls have not been able to break that barrier comfortably. If you look at markets, if you look at technical indicators, it suggests to you that anytime it gets to that zone, the buying pressure weakens. So that tells you that that's the spot that market pundits are looking at. Because if it breaks successfully above 42,500, then we can look at 45. But that seems to be a turn down.
Anyway, this seems like a fair price for me, Olumide. But thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. Yeah.
So, Jimmy, look at the top auto market cap. They're all in the red, down 3, 4, and XRP is the biggest loser there, down about 6% at 72 cents. XRP was getting that rally, but you know, once Bitcoin sneezes, you know, the altcoins just move.
Well, wait and see mode. That's
yes.
what Olumide says. So we'll continue to wait and see. All right, that's it on the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu.
And I'm Ladi Williams. Don't forget to join us at 1:30 p.m. for Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ladi Williams.